Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel. Most of us primarily think of gear and supplies when it comes to preparedness, but if you've got kids or grandkids, preparing them is just as important as all the other stuff, because no matter how many supplies you have squirreled away, your family's survival could come down to whether or not your kids know what to do and how to handle themselves when things get bad. So today we're going to talk about how to prepare kids for emergencies and also how to keep things age appropriate. First, let's talk about one of the most important parts of preparing kids for emergencies, and that's how you talk to them about it. Even though it's pretty easy to forget sometimes, kids are not miniature adults. They process things a lot differently than we do, and if we handle those conversations the wrong way, it can either leave them terrified or totally confused. And when it comes to young children, like preschoolers and early elementary age kids, those guys need simple, concrete explanations. They don't understand abstract things like infrastructure failure or global instability, but they do understand that sometimes bad weather happens or the power goes out. The trick is to explain the danger without scaring the living mess out of them. You could say something like, sometimes big storms knock out the light, so we keep flashlights and snacks ready just in case. That lets them know that you as their parent are in control and that there's a plan. Also, watch your tone. If you sound anxious, they'll pick up on that and start to feel anxious too, because little ones are like emotional sponges. They soak up whatever you're putting out. That's why my 6-year-old has the attitude that he does. So even if you're stressed, keep your voice calm and steady when you're talking to them. It's also important to shield little ones from scary media. Even background noise from the TV can freak out a 5-year-old who hears words like explosion or phrases like death toll. And they might not say anything right away, but you better believe that that stuff's bouncing around in their little heads. And if they do overhear something scary, don't brush it off. Ask if they have questions and correct any misunderstandings that they have in a gentle way. Then when kids are between 8 and 12, they start to get more curious. They might hear about disasters at school from friends or online, and they want to know more about them. And this is a good time to start having slightly more detailed conversations, but you still need to try to keep things grounded. Don't overload them with worst case scenarios, but instead focus on practical steps and empower them with a little bit of knowledge. If they ask what happens if there's a tornado, walk them through the plan. Let them know that their school has drills and what everybody will do if one happens while you're at home. This is also a good age to let them start helping with preparedness activities. Kids this age usually love being involved, so they can do things like pack their own go bag with a flashlight, a snack, and a comfort item like a toy or book. That'll give them a sense of control and make the idea of a disaster a little less scary. You can also give them jobs to do during a disaster, and a good tool to help with that is my emergency go list for kids. It has a checklist of things that they can do to take care of themselves and other things around the house if something bad happens. It's free for anybody who signs up for my emails, and you can do that using the link in the description below. Another thing to look out for when kids reach this age is rumors that they pick up from other kids. Grade schoolers are notorious for hearing half a story and turning it into something straight out of a horror movie. So when they ask questions, take time to listen first. Find out what they think they know, and then gently fill in the gaps. Next, let's talk about teenagers, and this one's tricky because teens are in that weird spot where they want to be treated like adults, but they're still learning how to think like one. Most teenagers are already getting disaster-related news from social media or their friends. There's no telling what in the world they're picking up on the instant scram, so if you ignore the topic or talk down to them, they're just going to push you away and not listen. So instead, be direct and include them in the discussion. Let them know that if something happens, they have an important role to play and their actions do have consequences. This is also a good age to start giving them more responsibility. You can show them how to use the two-way radio, teach them basic first aid, or go over evacuation routes and give them a job like grabbing the first aid kit or helping their younger siblings. That would probably be a very good thing. And it's not just about delegation, it's about trust. And so when you show your teen that you trust them to help during an emergency, it gives them purpose and confidence. Just remember though, teens may not always show their fear the way younger kids do. They might joke about it, roll their eyes, or act like they don't care, but underneath, they could be just as nervous or even more so because they're starting to realize how serious things can get. So make sure to check in, give them space to talk, and listen without jumping straight into lecture mode. And it's also important to teach your kids the value of having good operational security. And how you do that, of course, will also vary depending on their age. Just teach them, as soon as possible. There are certain things that we do not talk about, like we don't talk about all the food that we have. We don't talk about our safe room if we have one. We don't talk about where we're going to go if things get really bad. And as the older they get, then you can teach them more reasons why that's the case. So now that we've talked about how to communicate with kids about disasters, let's talk about how we can actually train them. First, it's important to realize that kids are a whole lot more capable than most people give them credit for. My 6-year-old can already use my GMRS radios to talk to me and turn on the FM radio feature. He can't do everything on them, but he can do a lot for his age. And when you teach them real preparedness skills, ones that they can practice and remember, it helps build confidence and keeps them from freezing up in a crisis. The trick is to match their skills with their age and maturity. You want to challenge them, but not overwhelm them. And when it comes to toddlers and preschoolers, you're obviously not going to teach them how to use a tourniquet or show them how to mess around with a breaker panel, but there are things you can teach them, and when you do, you want to focus on routine, repetition, and simple safety habits. You can start with basics, like washing their hands the right way, listening and following directions during drills, and also recognizing trusted adults, people like parents and grandparents. For fire safety, let them hear what a smoke alarm sounds like so they're not totally terrified when it goes off, and also teach them what you want them to do when they hear it. You can also teach them stuff like stop, drop, and roll in like a fun way. Make it a game. Same goes with like the crawling under smoke. It's also a good idea to start teaching them their full name, their parents' names, and eventually your phone number. There's a lot of 3- and 4-year-olds out there that can memorize stuff if you repeat it with them like a song or a game. If not, you can teach them to show other adults a contact information card that you keep like in their bag or inside of a jacket pocket. And even though they're little, give them a job during drills, like holding the flashlight or helping pack their favorite stuffed animal in a go bag. They'll feel important, and it gives them a little bit of control. Now, when your kids hit elementary school, then they should be able to remember things better and follow more complex directions. They should be able to do things like memorize multiple important phone numbers, tell you their home address, and understand what 911 is and when it should and shouldn't be used. Role-playing works great at this age. You can say stuff like, what would you do if you woke up and smelled smoke? And then let them walk you through it, and after they do that, help them fill in the gaps. Run that scenario a few times until they've got it down. They're also old enough to understand who to trust in an emergency and who not to. That might mean talking about things like, if someone says that they know me and I'm not around, what would you do? I know it's not fun to think about, but it is necessary. Stranger danger is a bigger threat than it has ever been, so your kids need to know about it and what to do if somebody tries something stupid. This is also a good time to let them help put together their own little emergency kit, like let them pack a flashlight, a snack, a card with their emergency contacts, and a comfort item like maybe a small toy or blanket. That way, they know what's in their kit, what it is, and what it's for. Kids in this age group can also start learning simple first aid. Nothing too crazy, just how to clean and bandage a small cut, maybe how to apply an ice pack, and how to tell a grown-up if someone ain't looking so good. You can also start teaching them basic survival skills, things like knot tying, how to set up a tent, and how to use your water filters. And even though the exact age you'll start teaching this will depend on your particular kid, their maturity level, and what you're comfortable with, this is also a good time to start teaching the safety of the pew-pews. Teach them Eddie Eagle things, like if they find one, don't touch it. You may have everything squirreled away at home, but you never know about what their friends' parents do. Then if they can handle it, break out the Red Ryder and start teaching some basic marksmanship. My grandfather did that with me when I was around 5 or 6, and my son has already had some practice with that as well. And don't forget drills, whether it's for fires, tornadoes, earthquakes, or bugging out. Kids from this age benefit a lot from doing stuff, not just hearing you talk about it. Keep it low pressure and try to make it fun, but Do it often enough that it becomes second nature. You can also start teaching kids in this age group how to use basic tools. Like I take my son to Home Depot and Lowe's each month for their little builder days, so he's already pretty decent at using a hammer. Then when kids reach around 10 to 12 years of age, that's when you can really start teaching some hands-on skills. By this point, they should be able to call for help confidently, know multiple routes to your family's meeting point, and also understand the types of disasters that are most likely in your area and how to respond to each one. This would be a good time to teach them more advanced concepts like how to build a proper fire, including how to use a ferro rod, and also how to create a shelter out of natural materials or make one out of a poncho and some paracord. This is also the age where I started to go hunting with my dad, and I know of a lot of kids who I went to school with who started even earlier than that, but once again, anything like that is entirely dependent on your kid's maturity level and your ability to teach them safely. You can also introduce basic utility use, show them how to turn off the water main if you feel they're ready, and tweens can also help stock and check emergency supplies. Have them help you do things like inventory the pantry, rotate water, or check expiration dates on supplies or like medications. This is also a great age to start teaching radio basics like how to use FRS or GMRS radios, or how to listen to a NOAA weather alert, and also how to communicate if cell towers go down. A lot of kids absolutely love tech, so this is a good way to get them interested in preparedness, and it's also a good time to start teaching them how to cook using like regular appliances and any camp stoves that you may have. And if they're ready, introduce them to CPR and first aid through age-appropriate courses. They can also take ownership of their own go bag at this point, like let them pack it with the essentials and some comfort items, and then review it together to make sure that everything in there makes sense. You can even turn it into a challenge, like let's see if you can carry this for a mile without setting it down. And by the time your kid hits their teenage years, you can start treating them like an adult in a lot of ways when it comes to preparedness. Give them real responsibilities, like leading parts of your family's emergency drills, starting your generator each month, learning to use power tools, making basic home repairs, and also helping younger siblings during practice scenarios. I personally think that the goal here should be to get them to the point where they have the skills that they need to make it if something were to happen to you. That isn't fun to think about at all, but you never know. You don't want your surviving spouse trying to take care of everything on their own, or heaven forbid, have a kid who loses both parents at the same time and not have any idea of what to do. At this age, they're ready for certified training, things like CPR, advanced first aid, CERT, and those can be huge confidence builders and are useful even outside of disaster scenarios. If they drive, make sure that they have an emergency kit in their car, a flashlight, first aid, snacks, water, jumper cables, blankets, spare charger, stuff they can actually use if they get stranded, and teach them what to do with all that. This is also a good time to get their input when updating your family plan. Teens love to feel heard, even if they pretend not to care. So let them help decide on rally points, test different gear, or even research things like how to store fuel safely, or help them build a stinking Faraday cage. Just give them ownership, and since teenagers usually have access to phones, teach them how to use emergency apps like FEMA, Red Cross, or offline maps. But also remind them that tech can fail, so they should memorize key numbers, routes, and plans. But no matter how old your kids are, there are a few rules that always apply. First, repetition's key. Don't just tell them something one time and assume that they'll remember it under pressure, because they will not. Repeat it, practice it, turn it into muscle memory. Then make it fun whenever you can, whether it's a scavenger hunt in Dollar Tree to build a go bag or just timing them during a fire drill. Games help kids engage without being scared. Next, involve them whenever possible. Kids who help create the plan are more likely to follow it. Give them ownership and responsibilities that grow as they do. And finally, model what you teach. If they see you checking the storm radios, rotating food, or reviewing your plan, then they're a lot more likely to take all of that stuff seriously themselves. Now, if you want to see ways that you can stay cool during a summer power outage, then go ahead and click here. Or if you want to see preps that you'll actually use and won't be a huge stinking waste of money, then click here. Also, don't forget to get a copy of my Ultimate Go list for kids using the link in the description below. Thank y'all for stopping by. Y'all have a good one.